List from PayPal, easy to pay, migme, Vinaphone, and Line. I will give the microphone to you, and you can do the introduction. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. I think my panels basically here is the last one, but we hope we really make it exciting, so you can stay, but we don't want to really keep you for too long, to get too bored also. I think I was just going to start to introduce each of us. My name is Rivai. Actually, I work for MOL based in Singapore. For you that doesn't know about MOL actually we are the largest alternate payment provider for online game. So we started the business in the MMORPG era. We are doing for social game and now for the mobile games payment also.
Good afternoon. I'm Nick McElveen, head of digital goods for APAC for PayPal. And as you folks are familiar with PayPal, we have 162 million active consumers and digital wallets out there where gaming and digital content providers use us all over the world to process payments and get paid in 100 plus currencies.
Hi everyone. สวัสดีครับ ผมชื่อ Pongsak. My name is Pongsak. Basically, I'm Thai. I'm the only Thai here. So I'm a CEO of Easy2Pay. We are a mobile operator, billing aggregators, covering the whole Southeast Asia. Nice to meet you, and I think we can make these sessions more exciting. This is the last one already. Thank you.
Hi everybody. I'm Paul Meyers. I'm Vice President of Media and Entertainment with migme. And we're a mobile social network, formerly known as MiG33. You may have known us under that name. Reformed as migme, and we operate across about a dozen countries in Southeast and South Asia, and we have about 10 million MAU and growing. So nice to be here. Thank you.
Hi everybody. My name is Linh. I'm since 1 year. I have been product manager of Vinaphone. I'm focused on the payment option. So Vinaphone is the third largest telco in Vietnam. So I'm looking forward to sharing my experience in working with as a developer and publisher with everyone here.
Hello everyone, my name is Homare. I'm from Line. I'm specifically actually from the Line Free Coins team. I know the theme today has something about games in there. You probably want the someone from games team. Unfortunately, I'm from the Free Coins team. It's an advertising solution. We do have a lot of game developers use our solution to promote their games. And I do have also like extensive experience in the game industry from the PC era and mobile gaming as well, and hopefully be able to contribute in some way.
All right. Yeah, I think Southeast Asia market is quite exciting. I mean, unfortunately, it's because in ASEAN, because the country is fragmented, so a lot of international companies, when they go to Asia, usually they go to the Far East market. But I think with the emerging of the mobile game popularity in Southeast Asia, more and more game companies start looking to Southeast Asia. Based on the report by the Newzoo and Frost and Sullivan, actually the CAGR, the compound annual growth of the game, basically covering mobile game and online game, is about 17 to 20%. And I think by the year 2018, it will hit around $2 billion for the entire Southeast Asia region. And Southeast Asia population combined, actually there's a 600 million population. So it's pretty big, and it's a big chunk of the global population. A lot of the question that actually I heard about when the international game company looking to Southeast Asia market, they were asking me like which country they should focus on, because in ASEAN country there's a 6 major country. So any of you want to answer this?
I'll start first. Yeah, this is the same question I always been asked by the developer and the publishers. Southeast Asia for us, right? We have huge populations, but the biggest problem of Southeast Asia is that every single country in Southeast Asia, they speak different languages. So language barrier is one of the most important things, okay? The largest country in Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, basically they have huge populations, the number of mobile penetration are also very significant to the business. You can look into Indonesia. But for us, if you look at the countries that has probably higher ARPU, you may need to look at Vietnam or Thailand first. So what I would recommend, right? The first three countries, if you look at the size, would be like Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia.
Okay, anyone else want to comment?
I think I have a slightly different take on that. In a previous life, I owned a company that distributed mobile games across Southeast Asia and represented a number of the major developers. This is in the feature phone days, so a little different, but still some of the dynamics still exist. A lot of developers coming from outside of Asia would go first to English language markets. Okay, so that would be Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines primarily, and then try to shoehorn their games into the other markets and get whatever they could. I still think that developers from outside of Asia look at the market that way, but for those of us who are here, we look at our individual markets first. If you're a Thai developer, you start in Thailand and then you go to neighboring countries. I work with a lot of Indonesian developers. They look at Indonesia first and then try to expand as well. Singapore and Malaysia are good markets in terms of pricing, but they're relatively small compared to a Thailand or an Indonesia or even a Philippines.
Nick, you want to answer?
Sure. I think we probably see more international providers on our payment network, where they'll do essentially a lowest common denominator with the broadest reach possible, and then we'll see, based on each individual market, they'll, especially in the monetization space, that will also depend. If it's a freemium game with upsell within the game, we'll have very different approaches versus subscription or what have you. Obviously, credit card penetration rate, which we'll see, things like countries like Singapore, very, very high, whereas in Indonesia, I think it's about 5% credit card penetration rate. And then, of course, carrier billing, lower price points. So typically, we'll see merchants and developers look at their existing properties and how well and how easily they can monetize and then customize for each region. So not to give you a non-answer, but it's very important to look at who's using your game and who will be able to pay within the construct of your existing structure. Premium SMS, for example, very popular and widespread across the globe, let alone in Southeast Asia. That's a pretty good lowest common denominator. Of course, the revenue shares and so on are very different. So depending on your cost structure, licensing, and so on, it depends. But I'm confident there are a few people in this room that will be able to help you folks out with that if you need help.
All right. Linh?
I think Southeast Asia has big potential, but we have now so many different culture, however, the ability to pay is different. One person in Singapore can afford to pay more than one person
higher ARPU, basically.
In Thailand or in Vietnam. And I think one more difference is the policy. And the policy for publisher in Vietnam is more different than in Thailand or in Singapore. So.
Okay, I'm interested to know from Homare, basically because you run Line. Line is one of the most popular chat apps in Southeast Asia, basically.
Correct, yeah. So my answer is going to be very, very coloured. We do have a lot of users in Southeast Asia. Specifically in Thailand, we have 33 million and plus and counting. So that's one of our key markets, obviously. And talking from the Freecoins perspective as well, because our platform sits upon Line itself, we need to have the users there to make our solution work. And so basically Thailand, a big key one, but what we're seeing as well in Thailand, and this is in the general sense, not from Line Games specifically, but is that the ARPU is actually fairly low compared to, say, more developed countries. But when you look at the RPPU, the actual paying user rate is actually not too bad. So basically what that means is that the average, the paying user rate, the number of users that are actually paying is quite low. So this is an inherent obstacle, I think, in Thailand. If we can overcome that, I think we're going to see some growth here. So that's a very, very interesting market, I think, for game developers to tackle. Another one that is interesting is also Indonesia, obviously, because of the sheer number of people there. The population is phenomenal there. And we're also seeing from Line as well a lot of growth. But I think same challenges as Thailand. There are paying users out there, but the average is probably quite low. Once that obstacle is cleared, it should be very, very interesting, and we'll see some big growth down that way.
All right. I move on basically about most of the discussion today, right? If you hear about basically about how to discover your app, and basically most of the discussion is centralizing about the network ad, and it's the most common complaint that actually I hear from the publisher or developer is that it's getting very difficult for the gamers to find their games basically in either Google app or iOS. So not forgetting that actually all my panelists here, they have a huge number of users. Like PayPal has a tons of users. Even MOL also has a tons of users. MOL actually, I mean, PayPal actually, I saw that they also help the game company actually to be discovered by their users. Carrier, actually mobile carrier has a lot of subscribers also, which basically this is like another alternative way for the game publisher developer actually to get their apps discovered. So I think I'll start with Nick about PayPal. How do you help basically a game company that use PayPal to get the PayPal user to know more about the game?
Sure, and it's I think many or most developers that are focused on mobile typically go through the ecosystems that we're all very familiar with on mobile. And I think that over the last 12 to 18 months, we've seen a shift where developers are finding that acquiring consumers online and on mobile web is not only more effective, they're able to rise above the noise in the mobile ecosystems by acquiring consumers outside. And it's also much more profitable because they can use alternative billing mechanisms than the mobile ecosystem's sort of default billing mechanisms. So they can do cross-platform programs where they might have a program, let's say on a mobile web, as well as inside the mobile apps. A non-gaming example would be Skype. Most of you folks probably use Skype. They don't actually do billing inside a mobile app. They actually acquire the consumers outside of the mobile app ecosystem and then get a payment there, and then allow people to consume their service within the mobile app as well. So they have a cross-platform product, and their return on investment, their margin of that business is significantly different. So that's, I think, bottom line, not only allowing your developers and your publishers to be in the mobile app ecosystem, acquiring consumers outside, we're seeing is a much more popular emerging trend over the last 12 to 18 months.
All right, Pongsak, you work a lot with Carrier. Basically, the Carrier has a massive number of subscribers. I think something. Yeah,
this is from my past experience. Actually, before we start the billing business, publishers publishing of the mobile games. Usually, you can did it with all the carriers. Put it this way: 5 years ago, I believe one of the most effective marketing tools is to work through the carrier, because they have their own subscriber. Is whether or not they can dig into the user profile and maybe send the SMS broadcast, feature your game on the portal. That usually did well. Is give even better effective rate than putting your own money into the mobile app, basically.
Yeah. So do you think that the mobile carrier should have its own platform also? I think some mobile carriers are doing that, right?
Some of the mobile carriers I've been working with, they keep on doing that. But yeah, so far it's the most difficult things I think that the mobile carrier can push through. There's a lot of challenge in terms of how to get the users. There's also about the policies about the user's confidentialities of the user informations, whether the users wants to get the SMS broadcast or not, something like that that you need to overcome in the futures.
I see. Paul, you have a comment? You have a MIG actually has a 9 million active users.
Sure. So migme, we have our own gaming platform within our app universe. So our users can play games within migme. So that means it's a little different of a dynamic that we can promote games within our system directly to our users. Okay, which is very nice. I used to be on the other side of the fence where I used to sell games to carriers and with carriers and even ran some carrier decks. And that was really difficult. I mean, there were all sorts of restrictions and issues around that. Running your own ecosphere for promoting and distributing and cross-pollinating games, I like that a lot more, and I think it's better for the consumer ultimately. And for the developers that we work with, I think it's a lot easier because they know what they're getting and how to work with us, rather than it just being a kind of a dark hallway that they're trying to follow some rules.
Okay.
Not from the telco side, yeah.
Okay, we are a mobile carrier, and we so we have in total 26 million subscribers. So, but we are at the beginning of the working with the game developer and game publisher. So in December we have launched one game gateway for every game developer to integrate their game to our platform. From my experience, my telco can help the developer many things. For example, we can carry out the marketing campaign. For example, SMS broadcast or mobile advertising. Otherwise, we can help the developer with our customer care system. So our people can help the developer to educate the customer how to play the game, and they can sell the game direct to the user. So, and one other thing is the payment platform, and we have some payment platform like prepaid account or mobile wallet, and the game developer can use our payment platform. So that is
okay. Yeah, for the line, I think you have like an incentive for get people to find a game, right?
Right. I think we're sort of cheating on this. We already have a lot of users on our platform.
Yes.
Coming to the messaging app basically every day, and you know, we obviously have the famous, you know, line game platform, which, you know, obviously has its own line games coming, and we do content discovery in that way. Also, we have, like, from my team as well, Free Coins. We have, obviously, users coming to the Free Coins offer wall where users are incentivized to interact with, you know, the new content that advertisers want to push out. So that's, you know, our content discovery mechanism, I think, that we have.
Okay. One of the, basically, it's not really the complaint, but it's becoming a standard, right? There's basically a major platform, they take 30% basically for all this payment. And if you're basically a publisher, basically it's pretty high, because you have to share with the developer and you still have to maintain the server and all those things. This is the area that actually we see that some of the publishers actually they start using alternate payment because they got the lower margin. And yeah, there's something that basically, I don't know, you like to comment about this, Nick, basically?
Thank you. That's one of my pet projects, is trying to pass along the most value possible to the consumer. I think that is the most critical piece of payments, so that consumers not only like the content, but they believe that they're getting the value. and especially when it's licensed content, if you have a very, very high cost payment mechanism, your developers and content providers are not able to pass along enough value to consumers. So at least at PayPal, and maybe I'll speak more broadly about the industry, I have a long history working in premium SMS and direct carrier billing. We spent most of our time with mobile operators trying to reduce the take rate that the carriers took, so that, again, we could pass on more value to the merchants, the developers, so they can then go license games or create games. And ultimately, it was about investment into the content and services that they offer to consumers. Very, very critical, I think, that on the premium SMS and carrier billing side, as a wholesale rate, it needs to be probably around the 8% or lower range. In certain markets, it is starting to go in that direction, so that merchants are really only taking about a 10% hit from the payment mechanism side for premium SMS. That all in, it needs to be about that. We need to work sort of as an entire combined ecosystem, so that things like customer care calls, fraud, and so on are all made so that the ecosystem can really, again, provide that value to consumers. The 30% rate on the mobile ecosystems, as we were talking about a little bit before, I think generally needs to come down in that 10% range as well, in order to grow beyond the size that it is now. I think that we all are excited about what mobile apps can bring us. But even our friends, PayPal, we acquired a company called Braintree, and they have a payment mechanism that's built into the App Store, the apps as well. Right now for tangible goods, but those billing outside that ecosystem can use Braintree and PayPal as well to lower significantly down into the 4% range. So you're taking 30% down to 4%. That's a lot of revenue that can be shared among other partners, the publishers, the ad networks, developers, affiliate marketers, and so on. Wouldn't it be nice that we all could make another 20%, 26% on our yearly salaries? We want to give you folks, the developers, as much of that value, again, so that you can make that ecosystem work. That's kind of what our philosophy of PayPal and Braintree, trying to make it work for you folks as well.
Yeah. Carrier billing actually is still quite high also. So I don't know, because I think to build huge volume also, that basically we need to have a more reasonable basically the rev share. So some of the partner like carrier billing might be something that you can reduce further. I don't know. You like to comment about it?
Right. Actually, I think Nick has made all the points, right? And it's very straightforward. Yeah. So I try to come out from different angles.
Okay.
Some of the operators, they still have the limitation because the regulation is still there. Okay, they will need to pay something back to the, let's say, the one that give them the license. That's why they can't give out a competitive rate through us. I think it's changing. It's changing rapidly, and they're starting to understand, and that's why we need to. There must be someone that work as a middleman or the bridge to bridge the understanding among the telcos who may not have the feeling of working with game publishers or developers. They may not understand that. All right, we are bridging between the telcos with the publishers. We try to make this ecosystem. We try to make the distribution of the revenue among this ecosystem more equally among the players here. So for me, things keep changing, and it's getting better and better.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on it?
Well, I think we look at it a little differently at migme. We don't use carrier billing. We have our own currency within our platform, much like Line does, for probably the very same reasons. That we think that it provides more value to both our consumers and to the developers as well. So we have an in-platform currency that you buy through a variety of merchants and different ways to buy into the system, and that way you get more value, the game developers get more money back, and we hope everybody's happy you're doing that.
I think the carrier billing is difficult, and I totally agree with with him. So in Vinaphone, we have discussed many things about the carrier billing and the revenue share with the developer and publisher. So we can now share until 65% to the developer or publisher. So this is our policy now.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually going to sit this out, but I think because Nick hit the nail on the head there. But I do want to, highlight one aspect that probably us in the business world tend to forget is that, the money is actually flowing from the user. And if we choke this economy, this ecosystem, if you will, with all these, platform costs and all that, and everyone trying to take their share of the pie, there's nothing much left. The costs get passed down to the user, basically, right?
Yeah.
And in Southeast Asia, I mean, we know disposable income is, fairly low down here. And if we apply these sort of huge platform costs onto the developer, and the developer has to pass on these costs to the user, we're choking the ecosystem, and we really need to be careful about that, I think, yeah.
And most of the user, like line user, right, when they purchase, actually is it through credit card, through alternate payment? Or?
I'm not allowed to comment on that, actually.
You cannot comment on that? Okay, all right. Okay, I think I move to the next subject. Is basically we noticed that for the mobile game, it's getting PvP competition actually is becoming a very successful model. I mean, like Clash of Clans becoming huge because, as a player, you can attack other people's base or other player actually attacking the base. But all this PvP competition basically is not real time. But there might be a trend that actually PvP competition might go into like a real-time PvP. I think this question is specifically directed to Paul because I think Mick has an interesting platform that actually allowing mobile game to play a PvP in the real time. You might want to highlight that, Paul. Sure. What is the trend going to be?
We see a great future in competition. I think everybody likes to compete. All gamers like to compete. I have a higher score than you do. I'm gonna, kick your butt in this card game. All of us like to do that. That's part of the reason why we play. So we are developing and we'll be launching very shortly a PvP platform that will allow multiple up to 5 players within our platform play against one another, members of the migme community. So we see that as being pretty sticky and pretty encouraging. All of our tests so far have been met enthusiastically, and we're pretty excited about it. And I think I think that's a way forwards, and being able to do it in real time, and on a variety of device types and network types is really quite appealing, and we're looking forward to launching that very soon.
All right. The last subject, actually, this is going to be like the last subject. We're talking about the fraud and chargeback. I'll see the trend that actually when I work for the online game payment, because I started working in the MMORPG, when the game's becoming like a free-to-play, we see that the number of fraud and chargeback actually somehow has gone up. And mobile games these days is pretty much in-app games, free-to-play, and games with basically monetized in-app. So will basically the fraud and chargeback is becoming a major problem or issue in the future? Nick, you might want to comment on that.
I'm sure. Fraud is often scary for developers and content providers. It oftentimes, the concept of fraud or not getting paid for content and services that have been effectively sold to the consumer, delivered to the consumer, but then they're not collected on when the payment, when it gets time to get paid, can often make developers not invest in what could be marketing partnerships. It could be expanding into new corridors, whether it be starting, let's say, in the North America or in the Middle East. Oftentimes when merchants go outside of their home area where they're accustomed to the dynamics of their own market, the fear of fraud, not actual fraud, but the fear of fraud will keep the merchant and developer from actually expanding and growing their business. And obviously, PayPal cares very dearly about that. Fraud in every market, in every payment mechanism, each payment mechanism, whether it be prepaid cards, carrier billing, premium SMS, credit cards and others, each payment mechanism has a responsibility to fight fraud anywhere they can. Obviously, because it's all downstream, it ultimately hurts every single party in the merchant, consumer, and distributor ecosystem. So we all have a responsibility to do that. Maybe 10 seconds, PayPal in Asia Pacific, we've launched a active fraud control program where we actually take new and more transactional data in real time, and we use that data from the merchant, of course, to fight fraud and everything from stolen credit cards and so on. We prevent, with technology, people, and processes, we prevent merchants from being hit by fraud and fight fraud every day. We have a lot of people working on it 24/7. So we're excited about sort of bringing that to market throughout Asia Pacific. And again, it's all about making the ecosystem viable for all the folks here on this panel, to you folks as well. Very, very important. So I'm excited to see what 2015 has to offer.
All right. Just to share information on the MOL side, actually, we don't really say that. We don't have a fraud because it's all prepayment. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, but on the mobile, right? Actually, it's not really a fraud. It's basically on the mobile. Basically, the problem is, it's like
the chargebacks.
Yeah, it's actually not. They will say that, oh, look, this is my son is playing it. It's using my phone, so I don't want to pay for it. So how's the mobile company actually is tackling this situation, basically?
Well, I would say that's part of the downside of the mobile carrier billing business.
Yeah.
Okay, basically that's a behavior of the users. Most of the users might try to take it for granted. All right, they use a phone, they use a credit, and they try to say that no, this is my son or even my husband who take that one, and I don't want to be responsible for it. It depends on the policy of the carrier. Basically, the carrier is the one who will be in touch with the users. How do you want to enforce it? All right. After the telco itself, I think Nick made a very good point. Everyone in this ecosystem must share this responsibility altogether. If you find out one of the users make a lot of fraud, mobile game publishers or even the developer must have the corporations to tackle this problem. You must report, you must have a system to ban immediately. That once telcos tell you that this one is not going to be responsible for this payment, you ban them, you find out the user profile, or anything that can stop these situations. I think this is going forward and is going to make this business really growing significantly.
All right. Anybody else want to comment?
I think I will have to change my service scenario of mobile payment in Vinaphone, because now for our service in Vinaphone, the user should have an account and they can pay for everything. Maybe now they should get, for example, a PIN from the SMS. By SMS to carry out the transaction. So I think I will change.
Okay. Anybody else? No comment? I think we can have a Q&A. If any of the audience want to ask any question to the panelists. Any question from any of these panelists? They can be a very good partner for you. They were providing payment. You can use their platform to discover your game. They have a huge number of users. And all the users, basically, they were monetized. There's the people that actually, not just a user, but they really spend the money. I guess no question? You have question? Oh.
So most of you guys are talking about doing payments for digital goods. How do you see the services that you're offering for non-digital goods, for example, e-commerce and other things on that is being transacted digitally, but actual physical goods. I mean, how are you guys supporting that and growing into that?
Let me start. I'll jump in. So with migme, we have we just announced that we purchased a company called Sold SG, and can you hear? No. Okay, which is a penny auction. So we have our MIG credits, which is our virtual currency, and our consumers, our users, will be able to use the MIG credits to bid on actual items, whether it be the phones or laptops or clothes or fabulous vacations or dinners or whatever. And that's the first step we're taking into real goods away from digital goods. Within the year, we'll be seeing a lot more of that, but that's our first steps, and we're actually launching that in the next couple of days. So yes, we're doing that right now.
Everyone's familiar with PayPal. Just to give you guys an idea of the scope, I actually made sure I got the right stats that were released yesterday for 2014. PayPal, which of course the majority of payments were tangible, physical goods, $228 billion in payments were processed in 2014 on the PayPal system. That's $700 million a day, 11.5 million payments a day. And that's $500,000 per minute. And again, the majority of that being tangible or products that are shipped all over the world. But what's interesting, and I think you folks in this room will find it interesting, 46 billion of those payments were mobile payments, and it's growing up 63% from 2013. So the pendulum is very much swinging onto mobile for both, of course, digital goods as well as tangibles, real products. And the way consumers shop, the way the consumers discover both content as well as physical products has changed overnight, at total light speed in the last 2 or 3 years. And that's what we're seeing across the globe. Consumer shopping habits, the way they pay, the way they want to buy, whether it be on tablets, they're watching TV, they've got 2 or 3 screens going at the same time. Very much shoppers all over the world are changing their habits, going into maybe looking at products in physical store, buying them later, starting on mobile, finishing on the web. Those behaviors are changing dramatically. It's really exciting to see.
Yeah, for MOL actually has a different approach. We have a division called MOL Pay. Yeah, it's just last question. Okay, let's answer. MOL Pay actually is targeting for those people who doesn't have credit card. It basically is he want to shop for the online shop and they don't have a credit card. If the online shop actually enabling MOL Pay, the user actually can pay at the 7-Eleven. So basically they pay at they will purchase the product from the web and they will receive a barcode. They will bring the barcode to 7-Eleven to pay. And then basically our 7-Eleven system will detect and tell the merchant to release the item. It's basically like escrow system basically. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I guess that's all. We have applause for the panelists. Yeah.